Hello everyone and welcome to the sixth part of this video series. Now in the previous video we made this sidebars. We have made all the sidebars for this upload section, and also as you can see we have our editor toolbar over here, so we do not need this toolbar over here. Okay, so but one thing that right now you cannot edit this text with this toolbar. Okay, as you can see here I cannot edit this, and the reason is that right now the editor that I'm passing over here, let me show you the editor that I'm talking about. So this editor, since we are using a TipTap editor, so we need to initiate a new editor whenever we make a new component here. So right now here this component takes this editor, and for this sidebar menu we have passed a different editor. As you can see here we have used a different editor, so they both are different, and because of that we cannot edit this text using this editor. So to solve that problem we have to actually store the editor of this component, and then we can pass that editor to this toolbar, and for that we are going to make a hook in which we are going to store this editor using useStand. Okay, so I hope you understand. We are going to make a hook where we are going to store this editor that we are defining over here, which we are actually passing to this component, and after we store that we are going to pass that editor to this sidebar menu, to this text sidebar menu, so that they can interact with each other and we can edit this text using the text editor toolbar. I hope you understand. So let's get started and start making that hook. So inside the hook we can make one more file named use editor, okay, and .ts. Now first import the create method from useStand. Okay, then we are going to import editor from TipTap. So first let's import TipTap here, TipTap React. Okay, and then we are going to import editor, then editor options. Lastly we are going to import v4 as uuid from uuid. So install this package. We are going to need this package to generate some random and unique IDs. Okay, now let's define the types here. So like interface, editor, state, and inside that first we are going to have editors here. Okay, and the type will be record and then string. So our key will be a type of string and the value will be type of editor or null. Okay, now we are going to define a action here. So this will be create editor. Okay, now this will take config, and this will be a type of partial editor option. Okay, and we are going to get string as a return value. So we are going to return this string to the component again, which is in this case is key for this editor. So we are going to store this id to another state so that we can actually query this state again using this id whenever we want actually. Okay, so let's define that function to get the editor. So we can write get editor, and we are going to get the editor using this id that we have passed to component, and then we are going to get editor in return or a null value. Okay, and then this editor will be passed to the sidebar menu text editor toolbar so that we can edit this text. Okay, I hope you understand. And lastly we are going to add a remove editor action, and this will just take id and then it will remove that, and in return this will return nothing. Okay, I hope you understand this. Let me explain one more time. First we are going to store all the editors in this format, which will have a key and a value pair. Okay, and this will be a record. Now then we have a action here, create editor, and this will take some parameters which will be a type of this. I will explain this later. So this will create a new editor in this format, which will have a key of type string and editor. Now we are going to return this key to the component, and then we are going to store this key that we have returned there in another state, so that we can get this editor again using this key, using this method. Okay, and lastly we have a remove editor function, which will just take this key and then remove that editor. So I hope you understand. Now we are going to start making that store. So we can write const use editor store, then create. This will take editor state set method. Now first we are going to have editors, okay, and this will be an empty object. Now we are going to create the editor. Okay, so this will take config. Okay, config this will take, and now this will create a new ID. Then we are going to create the editor using that config. So we can write const editor is equals to new editor. So instead of use editor here, we are going to use new editor and then pass that config here. Okay, now we are going to set this editor inside our state. So we can write set state. Okay, and we are going to add new editors. So editors, first we are going to spread all the editors inside that. Okay, like this. And lastly we are going to add our new editor using this key value pair. So the key will be id, and then we can pass our editor. So this is how you can add a new editor inside our editors. Okay, here. After that we are going to return our id. Now similarly we are going to write the function for remove editor. So remove editor, this will take id as a parameters. Okay, and we are going to set the state here. So first we are going to get our state, and inside that we are going to find our editors. So write const updated editor is equals to spread all the editors here, state.editors. After that we are going to find the editor using this id. So we can write updated editor, then id, and if we have that editor, then we are going to destroy. So we can write it like this, to destroy or delete that editor from editors, and then we are going to write delete updated editor with id this. Lastly we are going to return all the editors. So we can return editors, and now we are going to have the updated editor. Okay, so this will be for remove editor. Lastly we are going to have get editor. So this will also take id. Now we are going to just return the editor using that get method. So get dot editors, and then pass the id. And also let's add the get method over here. Right now we only have set method, so get. Okay, now we can return our editor using this get method. Okay, so this will be all for this store. We are going to have our editors, create editor function, remove editor function, and get editor function. Now with this done, let's go to our upload component here. And now here, when we actually upload the new file, we are going to create a new text component along with that, and then we are going to store that editor inside our store. But before that, I'm going to make one more store here, which will store our actual data, which we are going to upload to the database. Okay, So right now we are only storing our editor, but we are not going to actually upload that editor data to our database. We are going to upload the content of our editor to the database. Okay, so from editor we are only going to get text component data. We also have our image, video and gallery data. So to store all those components data, we are going to make our final store which will store all those components data, and for that we are going to make one more hook over here. Okay, and we are going to call it use upload data. Okay, so I have already made that file over here, and first we are going to import the create method from usestand. Okay, after that we are going to define our types here. So interface, we are going to call this upload data. Okay, now this will first have id, which will be a type of string, and this is must, since we are going to use this id to actually query the data that we are going to store here. Okay, and based on that data we are going to do some things like we can query this data using this id to shift the component one index above, or we can use this id to get the data and then duplicate that, or we can actually delete a component using this id. So this id is must here. Now after that we are going to have a type. So which type of data we are going to use here? Now we are going to have the same kind of data that we have in our upload menu. Okay, so main menu, let me make this upload media, which is step 1, and you will see that we have 4 type of components, and this will be the type of our data. Okay, so first we can have our text component, so the type can be a text. Then we can also have image type, a video type data. Okay, or we can have a gallery type data. Okay, and this gallery actually consists of both images as well as video. Okay, so this will be the type of our data that we are going to store here. After that we are going to have content, and the type of content will be simply string. So in case of text, we are going to store the content of our text component in form of HTML, and then we are going to store that HTML in form of string here. For image and videos, we are going to store URL in form of string. As for gallery, we are going to do some little bit more, since we are going to have multiple images or videos in the gallery section. So still we are going to store that data in form of string, but we are going to do some changes for gallery. Okay, and we are going to talk about that later when we start making this gallery component. Okay, now after that we are going to have some extra fields here. So I'm going to call them extra1, which will be a type of string, and then extra2, and the type will be same, which will be string. Now here let me explain about extra1 and extra2 field. Okay, so the extra1 is actually alt text for image. Now in some cases like video or text, or in the gallery, in the video part, we do not have alt text here. That's why I have called this extra1 instead of calling alt text, because in some component we do not have alt text. So it will not make sense if we have a alt text field here if some component do not have that kind of field. Okay, now as for the extra2, this will be the size of components. So the size of components can be either large or small. Now you can call this size because all of them will have the size field, which we are going to set from the CSS. So you can call this size if you want to, but I'm going to go with the extra2. Now after we define our data store, now we are going to define the actions that we are going to do on this data, like adding the data, removing data, updating data, all that stuff. So let's define the actions here. I'm not going to define all the actions right now. I'm just going to define the add entry action, which is enough for now for working on the text component. Okay, so I'm just going to define that part. Okay, And then when we are done with all the components, then I'm going to define other actions. Okay, so let's write interface data actions. Okay, now first we are going to have all the entries, you can call them data, and this will be a type of upload data array. Okay, after that we are going to define the add entry function. Okay, so this will take id. Okay, then we are going to have type of the data, so upload data type. Okay, then we are going to pass the content, and this will be a type of string, and it can be optional. Okay, so string and as well as null. After that, extra one, it can be optional, and this will be type of string. Then we are going to pass extra 2, optional, and type of, and type will be string. Okay, and after that one more thing, that would be after id, and this will be type of strings. Now here after id is actually going to be used for adding entry at some particular index. So say if we have already 5 entries, and if I pass the id of the second entry, then this is going to add a new entry just after the second entry. Okay, not at the end of the whole array. Okay, so this is important, so we have to pass this as well. And now let's return. So this will return nothing, so we are going to write void, and this can be optional. Okay, now let's define our store here. So we can write const use upload data store. Let's create, pass the data actions here, and then we are going to have both set and get method, and inside that we are going to write our entries to be a empty array, and then add entry. So let's write add entry. Okay, now here this is almost correct. I'm going to write first, initially the value will be null for our content. As for extra one, which is all text, we are going to have an empty string here. Now as for the extra 2, which is size of the component, we are going to go with the small. So initially the size will be small for all components. Okay, now let's go inside this, and first we are going to create a new entry. So write const new entry is equals to an object, and this will be type of data entry. So let's define that. Now inside that we can pass our values, so id, then type, then content, extra 1 and extra 2. Okay, now we should not have any errors. Okay, I think I forgot that content can be null as well. Okay, now I have created a new entry here. Now I'm going to set this new entry inside our entries, so we can use set here. Okay, now state and then object. First we are going to get all the entries, so we can write const entries is equals to array, then spread state dot entries. Okay, so we have all the entries here. You can see that the type is upload data array. After that we are going to find the index using our after id. Okay, so we can find const index of our entry, entries dot find index, where entry dot id is equals to after id. Now after this, first we are going to check if we have index or not. So if we do not find that entry, that means we are going to get index to be -1. So if we do not get that -1, so we are going to actually split the entries from that index. So we can write it like this. So we are going to splice that array from index plus 1 that we have find here, and then we are going to add this new entry inside that. Okay, else we are going to add this new entry at the end of the array. So we can just push the new entry at the end of the array, and lastly we are going to return entries here, and that would be it. So this is how we are going to add new entry in our data store. Okay, now with this done, let's save this, and now let's go to our upload component, and we are going to do some changes here. Now let's first import our upload data store here. So that import use upload. Okay, let's export this. So that export default use upload data store, and now we can import it here, upload data store. Now let's get our entries and function. So const is equals to use upload data store, and then we can get our entries here and then add entry. Okay, so first we can cut this lines from here and we can add it here, and after that we can actually add our entry over here. Now this will first take id, and we can generate that id using UUID. So let's generate that here. Const id is equals to UUID v4. Okay, so first we need to import that. So let's import v4 as UUID v4 from UUID. Okay, and now we can use it here. Now I am going to pass that id. After that we are going to pass the type. Now here we are checking for image, so I can simply pass the image type, then I can pass the content. Now in this case the file URL will be reader.result. So for now I'm going to pass this here, but later when we get our URL from Clerk, then I'm going to actually update this entry. Okay, so but for now we are just going to go with the local URL, and this will be type of string. Now the fourth argument will be our extra one, which is in this case is all text. Now image will have some all text, but we are going to add that using our sidebar menu. So for now we are going to go with our empty string. After that we are going to have extra2, which is size of the component. Now we have by default decided that this would be small, but for the first component the size will be large, and after that we have after id. For the first component we do not have any kind of after id, so this will be null, and for the video we just need to copy this and paste here, and we can just write video and everything will be same. Okay, now after that, as I said before, we are going to add a text component just after we add the image or video component, which is the first component. So after this we are going to call a function that would actually add a new editor in our editor store. So that function will be named as add editor, and then we are going to define this function here. Okay, const add editor, and now here we are going to define that function. Okay, now let's go to our hook use editor, and we have a function named create editor that would create our editor. So inside that we need to pass config, and the config would be actually this part. Okay, let's go to editor component, I think. Yeah, so this will be, this whole object will be our config, and we are going to pass that inside this function to create a new editor, and then we are going to get that editor using this function. Okay, So let's go to upload component and first import that hook or store. So import use editor store, and we are going to get that function use editor store and then get the create editor function. Now inside that, now since the create editor is going to give us a ID in return, so we can store that inside new editor ID variable is equals to create editor. Inside that we are going to pass our config. So let's go to our editor component and copy all this. Okay, now let's go here and paste inside this, and as you can see we do not have any kind of error, just the import error. So we can go again to editor component and import all these things. Okay, now let's paste it here and we do not have any kind of errors. After this, when we create our new editor, we are going to create a new entry. Okay, so we have only created this editor and now this editor is inside our this hook. Okay, but we actually need this editor's entry in our upload data, which we are going to send to the database. So this is main data. Okay, so after we add editor, we have to add that editor as an entry in this main data. Okay, and we are going to do that just after we have created this editor. Okay, so we are going to add one more entry here, add entry, and this time the ID will not be generated using UUID. Instead we are going to use this ID. Okay, and now using this ID from the entry we will be able to get this editor, and then we are going to use this editor in our sidebar menu in the text editor toolbar, and then we will be able to actually edit the editor content using that editor toolbar. Okay, I hope you're understanding. This is little confusing, but after I show you the example you will understand more. Okay, now we are going to pass the type and that would be text, and that's all. We are not going to pass anything else. Since this is going to be after our image component, we also not going to provide the after ID, and everything else will be just default value. Okay, now let's save. Okay, and let's close this. Actually I'm going to remove these buttons and everything else from here later, but let's test this out. Okay, so I'm going to go with this image. Okay, yeah, one more thing that I have to do here. Now I have to map over this entries. So we have entries over here, so I have to now map over them to actually render here. Okay, so let's remove this now, and here we can write entries dot map. We are going to have entry and the index. Okay, now we are going to use curly braces here since we are going to do some conditional checking here, and then we are going to return something, and we can return like this. We can just return null over here, and above this we are going to check the conditions for the type of entry that we have here. So if the entry type is okay, so dot entry type is equals to image. Okay, or entry type dot type is equals to video, and also, so we are going to use bracket over here. So if also the entry index is 0, so if the index is 0, then we are going to use the first media component that we have defined over here. So we are going to have the first media component. We can return that we can return that here, first media component. Now this will take some values. So first we can pass the key over here, and this will be entry dot id. Then we are going to pass the URL, yes, let's see what we have to pass. So the second will be URL entry dot content. Then we are going to have the type. Okay, so this will be entry dot type, and also we are going to have the entry ID. So right now I have not actually added that prop here. I'm going to do that later. So yeah, this will be all for now for the first media component. Let's see what we have problem here. So string dot null, so this can be undefined. So let's go to the first media and we can make this. Okay, I think so this is string and null, so we can go to the first media and we can add one more thing, null, and now this should solve the problem. After that we are going to check again else if, and this time we are going to check for text. So entry dot type, if this is equals to text, then we are going to have the text component. So here we are going to return our editor. So this will be editor component, I think. Yeah, and now we are going to do some changes over here. Right now the editors are defined over here. Now we have editors in our editor store, so we are not going to actually use this editor. Instead of this, we are going to use the editors from our store here, and we are going to get that editor using our get editor method. So we do not need this editor from now on. Okay, so we can actually remove this. Okay, and in the prop we are going to pass, let's go to the upload component. We are going to pass first entry ID, which will be equals to our editor ID. Okay, so entry dot id. Then we are going to also have key, so we can just write key over here, entry dot id, and then we are going to have after id here, which will be actually entry dot id. Okay, now let's go to the editor component and add those props here. So first will be entry id, and this will be a type of string. Then we are going to have after id, and this will be a type of string as well. Okay, now let's destructure them over here, entry id and after id. And now I'm going to use this use editor store. So let's import that, import use editor store, that const bracket use editor store, and I'm going to get the get editor method. Now using this I'm going to get my editor, so that const editor is equals to get editor. Here I'm going to pass my entry id. Okay, and let's remove this toolbar from here, we do not need this. Okay, and yeah, that's it. And okay, and now let's go here and we should have our component, but we do not have that component. Yeah, so let's go to the upload component, and first let's console our entries. So clg entries entry. Okay, inspect this. Okay, so I have my component over here, sorry. So this is the component I have. Okay, so right now this is taking full width. I don't know why I want this to only this big. So yeah, but that's the side. We have our component here, and if I inspect and go to the console, you can see I have entries over here. So this is the entry, and first we have an image component, which is this, and then we have a text component, which is this one. Okay, so this is working. Yeah, this render part is working. Okay, and now just like we did in the editor component, we get our editor here. We are going to do same in the editor toolbar. Okay, so where is the editor toolbar? Let's go to the main menu. Okay, so where is the menu? So in the sidebar menu, when we have the menu for text, so this is image and this is for the text, we have editor toolbar here. Okay, so we are passing editor over here. So now we can actually remove this editor. Okay, and we can get our store. So import use editor store, and write const is equals to use editor store, and then get editor. And now we are going to get our editor using our selected component ID, which is entry ID, but right now we are not saving that, so we need to save that as well. Okay, so we can go below and we can actually update this one a little bit more to save our selected entry ID, so that we can get our editor over here using this method, in which we have to pass that selected component or entry ID. Okay, I hope you understand. So let's go below in the menu, and here we are going to write selected entry ID. This will be a type of string. After that we are going to have this and this. Okay, now we can just go below and let the auto complete everything. Okay, and yeah, this is done. Now we can just save this, and then we can go to the editor component, and when we click on this editor, so on click, I think we should have on click handler here. On click, oh yes, first let's import that store. Import what store we have here, use menu store, use menu store. From that we are going to get set selected, so set selected entry ID. Now we are going to on click set selected entry ID, and this will be equals to entry ID. Now we can just copy this, go to the sidebar menu, paste it here, sorry, not here, here, import the, okay, so we already have menu store, so we can just add selected entry ID. Now we can get our editor. So editor is equals to get editor and selected entry ID. Now let's save. Okay, so when I click on this, okay, and also on clicking this, let's make the selected menu to be text. So we can again go to the editor component. We can use curly braces here to add some more things. So set selected menu, set selected menu, and this will be equals to text. Okay, and also we can open the menu, so we can is menu open, sorry, set is menu open, on open menu, and we can then edit here on open menu. Okay, so I think when I click on this, okay, so this is not opening. I think I have to write it like this. So when I click on this, now as you can see the menu is open, and also the selected menu is text. Okay, now let's try to edit this. Let's make this bold. This is bold, italic, underline. So everything is working, as you can see. Now let's make this heading 1, 2. So now this is working, and this was actually working earlier as well, but now we are going to go to the main part of this video, which is to make one more text component and editing these both components using one single sidebar. So we are going to do that now. Now here we are going to make actually one more component, and that would be the main text component. So let's make that main text component .tsx. Okay, and we are going to do some changes here. First, I'm going to make a different component for this tool. So we can add editor toolbar .tsx, and I'm going to paste this here. And then let's go to the editor comp again, and we are going to copy this and paste here. Okay, and we can remove some things from here. Okay, now I can go to the sidebar menu and change this import editor toolbar. Okay, now let's go to again here, remove all this. Now in the main text component we are going to do some changes. Let's start by writing the JSX first. So inside this div we are going to have one more div. Give this a class name of flex item center empty 10. Okay, now inside this div we are going to have one more div. Give this a class name of w10 by 12 mx auto to make everything is centered, px32 md px16 and smpx6. Okay, and position relative. Now after that, make a div, add the editor comp here. Now one thing that here in the editor comp, the entry id and after id is actually same, so we do not need to pass both of them here, and then we can just pass one, which is entry id, and this entry id will be equals to that we are going to pass over here. So we are going to pass this entry id, so copy this and paste it here, and then we can destructure that here, entry id. Okay, and let's pass that over here. Okay, now after that, below this div make one more div, or actually we can, okay, so we can make this main text component. We do not need this after id. Okay, and let's again go here, and we are going to need this plus sign, okay, plus button, so that we can add new components. So for that we can go to upload component, not first media. We need to copy this whole part and paste to this component. Okay, and we can remove this span. Save this. Let's add some images. Okay, and now, okay, when I click on this opens. That's good, and now we have a button over here. Okay, now we are going to do some changes. On clicking this, I'm going to first make the set selected. Okay, so let's import that. We are going to import use menu store, and then I'm going to get the properties from that. So use menu store, get set selected entry ID and set selected menu. So here make set selected entry ID to entry ID and then set selected menu to main. Okay, so now when I click on this will be changed to main. Okay, and now we also save our entry ID so that we can add the new component just below this component. Okay, as you can see, this is working. Okay, now here when I click on this, actually this is going to show me the secondary text menu, okay, which we have not made it yet here. Okay, so let's make that. So just below this we are going to have one more div, and we can copy that from here, class name, paste here, and this will be equals to secondary text of absolute position. Top will be 5 or maybe 6, left will be 3, cursor pointer. Now on clicking this, so we are going to make the set selected menu to main. So let's import that. So set selected menu we have already imported. Make the set selected menu to main. Okay, inside that we are going to have chevron left, size would be 20. Okay, and we should have this button. Okay, now let's add the option of type of components that we are going to add here. So we are going to have 3 kinds of components: heading para and simple para. Okay, so below this div make one more div, and inside that make one more div, give this a class name of bg gray 50 empty 10 p2, and that's it. And we can actually remove this empty 10. Then make one more div. Okay, give this a class name of p2 text excel flex item center justify center font bold bg white m5 and over bg gray 200 cursor pointer and h of 150 pixels. Okay, and now inside that we can write a span heading. Okay, so this is how it is going to look, and let's add empty 10 for this. Okay, and this should be p instead of m so that we can get this border. Okay, now after that you can duplicate this, and beside this span we are going to have one more span. Okay, let's make this p tag. Okay, give this a class name and text center, and inside this span we are going to have lorem. We can remove this part, give this a class name of text extra small font normal and text center. And here the flex will be flex call. Okay, and also let's add pb3. Okay, so now this is going to look like this, we can remove this empty 10 to empty 2, and let's duplicate this, and this time we do not need this, we are only going to have this. So these are the three options that we are going to give to the user to add the text component. So this will add a heading text component, this will add a heading and some para, this will just add para. Okay, so now let's add the function to add those components. Okay, so we need to add that function here, which we are going to get from our upload component. Okay, so let's go above, we can copy this and paste here. Now we are going to need this, so we can again go here, editor, store, and we also need these packages, so we can get that as well. Okay, so copy, paste it here. Lastly is this add entry from upload data store, so we can get that as well. Okay, now let's import this. Okay, and now this function only adds text comp which has a content of a para. Okay, so we are going to add that first. Here on clicking this, we are going to add the editor. Okay, now when I click on this, let's click on this part, text, and when I click on this, this will add a new component. As you can see, this is the new component. Let's edit this, so bold, and when I click on this, let's make this italic, and as you can see, I am able to edit both of them separately. So this is what we have been looking for. Now I am able to edit both of them separately using one single editor toolbar from the side menu, and this is what we wanted from the start. Okay, so this is working. Now we can actually add two more options to add a heading as well as a heading and a paragraph. Okay, so we can go above and we can add a type here, type, so it will be a type of string. Okay, now if the type, if let's make a content, so let content is equals to empty string, then we are going to, if the type is equals to heading, then we are going to have content to be, let's go below, copy this, so this will be the content. Okay, let's add a hashtag here, so h1, and here we can add now else if the type is going to be para heading, then we are going to have, okay, so this will be for para heading, so we can just copy this, paste here, we can remove the p part from here, and then else if the type is para, so we can write para here, and then we can just write this one. So let's just copy this all, paste here, and remove this heading. Okay, now we can go below and have the content. Let's make this capital content. Okay, and this as well. Now let's go below. This will take parameter, and this will be a type of para, and we have to write it like this. Now let's copy this, paste here and here. This will be para heading and this will be heading. Now let's save and go back here. Okay, click on this. Let's add a heading. As you can see, I have added a heading over here. Let's click on this. Let's add a heading and para, and now this is heading and para, and we can actually change this to h2. I think this will be much sensible. Okay, so let's click on this, and now this is h2. So with this we are actually now completed a text component completely. We do not need to do anything else here except for getting the data from these components. Okay, and that is going to be last step. Okay, so with this we are done with the text component finally, and in the next video I'm going to work on both image and video component. So we are going to complete that in the next video. Okay,